been a development on Dorgu, I'm hearing, Michael.
Yeah, I think it's the ramp up now, Mike, because the answer is it simply has to. We do have an update, and it's from our colleagues at Sky in Italy. This afternoon, a meeting was held in Milan over the transfer of Dorgu, representatives from Lecce and Matt Hargreaves, the director of football negotiations at Manchester United. We're just getting this through. The outcome of that meeting is that United currently do not reach their offer more than 25.4 million plus 4.2 million in bonuses in their offer for the left back. Under those conditions, Lecce would prefer not to give him away now, keep him until June, or sell him now but keep him in the squad until the end of the season. That sounds to me like it could become a saga.
So yeah, with add-ons, that's 35 million euros. And as we said earlier, if it's 40 million euros, suddenly then Lecce are listening. So, you know, the ball's in your court, Manchester United.
Yeah. What do you make of what's going on with Amorim being so outspoken about his squad? Is he actually saying to the board, get these players out, get me some new ones in, and this is one of the ones I want?
Yeah, I mean, his comments the other day about being the worst squad was maybe a bit harsh, in my opinion.
What was he doing? Who was he talking to?
Potentially, I think it was a message maybe to the board, maybe to the players a little bit. There's always, sometimes with coaches, there's always little hidden messages in what they're trying to get, and maybe trying to get a reaction out of the Man United players. So I don't think he did it in a malicious way. I think he was just more trying to get a reaction, but Dorgu definitely looks a player that would suit into his style, especially in the wing-back type role. He's very quick, he's very dynamic. So with Malaysia not getting any game time and players like that, so I think he could potentially be a good signing for him.
Okay, we've done throughout the window. We're going to start with Manchester United. Jamie, developments in the Marcus Rashford story. Tell us.
And as we've done throughout the window, we're going to talk about Marcus Rashford, the gift that keeps on giving. As we revealed last week, his preference is to join Barcelona, but that is complicated. We've already seen with the Dani Olmo saga that they need to create space for his salary with outgoings. They have not formalised any interest yet. Borussia Dortmund, meanwhile, have engaged Manchester United over terms of a loan deal in case they proceed with that move for him. The AC Milan thing looks like it's gone quiet now. AC Milan's focus is on getting Kyle Walker through the door, so it looks as if they've turned their focus away from Marcus Rashford. But I think everything is still on the table, Bridgie, and perhaps even we could see Marcus Rashford stay and try to fight for his place at Old Trafford, even though I think most of us would agree that perhaps the ship has sailed. It's the end of the road for those two parties and they're both going separate ways. I think it's perhaps still on the table.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the key is all options are still on the table, and this could maybe go into the final week of the window. We've got 13 days to go. It's a bit more extended than usual. It's usually January 31st, but it's February the 3rd, everyone. This time, February the 3rd. It's a manic Monday, potentially. And will it be a manic Monday for Marcus Rashford? As Jamie said, you know, there are options. Borussia Dortmund mentioned. Then we said to you last night that Erik ten Hag was linked with the Borussia Dortmund job. Wow, wouldn't that be a story? But another option is actually to stay at Manchester United. Wow, I still can't get over the post-match press conference from Manchester United on Sunday. What Ruben Amorim said about being the worst Manchester United team and squad. Wow, we get it. You know, he does want to make changes. That's absolutely understandable. But I do wonder what the ones that started in that match and who featured, how they feel about it. I'll tell you, didn't feature in that match. That man there.
David, how difficult will it be for United to get Rashford out of the door?
Yeah, it's always difficult in the January window, I think, especially when you've got a big player like Rashford. And obviously it's availability and the need on the other clubs you mentioned, like Barcelona or Dortmund. Obviously he's got big salary and expectations and stuff like that. So it's a shame for Marcus because obviously he's a Man United icon, but I think it looks like the most sensible move for him to part ways if he can this window.
Barcelona, Jamie, I don't get it. I just don't get why a player would want to go there given their financial mess. Why would he want to go there when they can't? They might not be able to pay him.
Horrible place to live, isn't it? Horrible place.
Yeah, but they might not be able to pay him. They might not even be able to register him. Why go there?
Well, I mean, that is the thing, and as David alluded to, he's on a salary of 350 grand a week, and all the indications are there's no chance that Barca can afford that at the moment. But I think it's a lifestyle choice, isn't it? And he's been at Old Trafford since he was a pup, and here's a chance to move to one of the greatest cities in Europe for one of the, if not the biggest club in Europe. Real Madrid fans wouldn't like me for saying that, but you know, imagine doing that at his age and just getting the chance to experience something different, experience La Liga and a city like Barcelona. I think that's the appeal for Marcus Rashford. But you're right, it all comes with that risk that it is a club that is not on the most even financial footing at the moment.
Right, Alejandro Garnacho, Michael, is he going to be in the Premier League for the rest of the season?
Yeah, really interesting one, this, because we know there was tentative interest from Chelsea over a week ago and didn't look likely at any point. But interest from clubs haven't gone away. And this time the club is Antonio Conte's Napoli, who are expected to accelerate their interest in Garnacho. With head coach, we know him very well, Antonio Conte, driving the deal. The initial approach was just shy of £40 million, which was knocked back. But they're under the impression, I love this, they're under the impression that Manchester United wants to do business around the £60 million mark. Now, good player, very good player, but that's a lot of money. And as we revealed yesterday, he's not looking to leave Old Trafford, but is aware he would be sold for the right price and the right conditions.
What do you think, David? Are you surprised that United are even contemplating letting someone like Garnacho go?
Yeah, for me, he's still very young. He's got loads of potential, and he looks like a sort of Amron type player on the surface. Obviously, we never know what goes on behind closed doors, and he's got those qualities where he can play in his system, either down the sides as the wing backs or the number 10. But with Quara, who's just gone to PSG, he looks like he could be a potential replacement for that. But I think Man United are quite right. They're not going to let him go cheap. He's a fantastic player.
Now, if he goes to Napoli, he could replace Kubica Kvaratskhelia, who you know well, of course, he's a Georgian. Is he of a comparable standard, Garnacho to Kvaratskhelia?
Yeah, similar. I mean, there's similar attacking qualities. They both like to dribble. Let's go 1v1. They can play on either side. Quara, as we call him in Georgia, can play up front as well. We would like to use him in the Georgian team, but I think he might do that with PSG. But I think Garnacho, in looking at Conte's system, more of a 4-3-3, he could be a good fit in there.
Did I get his name right?
That's why they call him Quara.
You did, yeah. We say that for short. It's either Quara or Quincha.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I might go with that.
Yeah.
Tell us about him. What was he like to coach?
Yeah, he's a fantastic player. He's obvious standout talent. He's great on the ball. He's very direct. For Napoli, I think they play him on the wing. We play him up front. Be interesting to see where he plays at PSG. Looking at where they are, especially with Koulibaly going now to Juventus, they might play him in that false 9 position. But I think when we have him in camp for the training camps, he's what you call like a top character. So when we do the training camps for national teams, you have to be really precise with your work, because you only get 3-4 days to work with the players before your game, and we can't get him off a training pitch at the end of games. He's one of those where he's got that top mentality. He always wants to learn. He always wants to get better. He's got that drive and determination. So yeah, he's a phenomenal player, and he's a fantastic character as well.
Mike, this is the domino effect we see every transfer window, isn't it? Koulibaly goes to Juventus, Kvaratskhelia goes to Paris Saint-Germain.
Yeah.
Now Napoli are trying to replace him, and the later you do it in January, the more difficult it gets, and the club that you're trying to buy a player from is like, oh, you're desperate, are you? Well, we might just ramp up the price a little bit more.
Exactly. On that note, let's talk about incomings for Manchester United. Linked with Patrick Dorgu. How easy is it going to be for them to get him, though, Jamie?
Well, we've just mentioned Napoli, and Napoli are trying to sign Patrick Dorgu, but they're prepared to sign him and then loan him back to Lecce for the rest of the season. So obviously, if you're in Lecce's shoes, that is obviously very tempting indeed. We understand Sky Italy are telling us that an agreement is close to being made between these two clubs, but if Manchester United were to offer around £34 million, €40 million, that could change the dynamic. So I think the ball very much in Manchester United's court. Yep, if you want him, stump up the cash.
OK, so he could come in. United could show Anthony the door. Is that right, Michael?
That is right, Mike. It's a move for Anthony to Real Betis on loan, close to completion. Now, I'm sure a lot of Manchester United fans watching us now will probably think that's best for all parties. But let's remember, 85 million, the whole package of that transfer from Ajax around the summer of 22. But these are the key figures here, Mike. A verbal agreement exists with no option or obligation included in the deal. Formal formalities are being sorted before he took a medical. Here's the key for me. His contract is up, yes, in 2027, but it does include a club-held option of a further year. Many of these deals, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but a lot of these deals, a player goes on loan but signs a deal with his club. Yeah. I'm not saying it's going to happen here, because this was a big transfer.
Yeah.
But
for the price tag, one of the Premier League all-time flops, you have to say. It just has not worked out at all.
Not at all. So on that note then, David, is it time for Anthony to move on?
Yeah, I think so. I think he needs a fresh challenge. He hasn't had much game time. It hasn't probably worked out as what he would have liked at Man United. So I think a move away is probably the right move for him.
From a coaching
Marcus
perspective,
Rashford's future at Manchester United has seemingly taken another big twist following reports that emerged on Tuesday evening concerning his preferred switch to Catalan giants Barcelona. The England revealed last year that he wanted out of Old Trafford after it became clear that he would not be able to fit into Ruben Amorim's 3-4-2-1 formation.
Yeah, it's
with
very
his first choice destination always known to be a switch to the Camp Nou.
Season as well, and
Rashford has been on the radar of a number of top clubs since his revelation, with the likes of Milan and Borussia Dortmund known to be keen on the 27-year-old forward. However, it had looked like a stunning U-turn could be on the cards over Rashford staying at Man United, according to a report that emerged earlier on Tuesday only for this latest rumour to suggest otherwise. It's now claimed that Barcelona have made a concrete move to bring the Red Devils star to La Liga. That's according to Spanish publication Sport. They state that Barcelona sporting director Deco met with Rashford's team to discuss a potential transfer prior to his side's Champions League clash with Benfica in Lisbon. Two reasons have also emerged why Barca are keen to get a deal done as soon as possible. Sport adds that the Catalan outfit are fearful that Dortmund could still swoop in and land the United forward, having already shown significant interest in the player. Barcelona also want to advance with Rashford in order to get both Ansu Fati and Eric Garcia off the books, which they would need to do anyway to create room with their salary cap. Ansu Fati has only started one game all season and his route to the first team looks difficult, with Tottenham known to have inquired about signing the former Brighton loanee. However, the 22-year-old is keen to stay with the Blaugrana and fight for his place, which could prevent a major obstacle to Barcelona's hopes of signing Rashford if they are unable to offload him.
as well, but they have now met at least the two parties.
Come to that in just a moment, Mike, because we've got some developments on Marcus Rashford. Now, we have been saying that a deal for Marcus Rashford to leave Manchester United in this transfer window is looking increasingly difficult to do. That's because of all of the finances that would be involved in such a deal. Borussia Dortmund, we've been telling you, will continue to push to try and sign Marcus Rashford. And we're told in the past few minutes that they've actually made an inquiry to Manchester United over what the loan terms for Marcus Rashford would look like if they opt to move for him. Now, that is something that a club would do, having spoken to Rashford's representatives. But it is a very, very difficult and complex deal to do, because Manchester United would no doubt want a loan fee as well as Borussia Dortmund covering a lot, if not all, of the wages, because Manchester United feel that this has all been driven by Rashford himself. He's done that interview saying he wants a new challenge. They're pretty relaxed about the situation. He's under contract there. Yes, he's been omitted from the squad by Ruben Amorim, and that's added to the speculation about his future. But I think that Ruben Amorim, whenever he is asked a question about Marcus Rashford, is clear in his messaging. He said the onus is on the player to try and fight his way back into the squad. He's not addressing this interview that Marcus Rashford has done. He's not addressing the fact that Marcus Rashford has said he wants a new challenge. All he is saying is, I'm picking the squad that I feel is the best for Manchester United, with the players who are training at their peak. So it's clear from that deduction, if we take it on face value, Ruben Amorim doesn't think that Marcus Rashford is doing that. And the onus is then on Rashford to be able to raise his game, to be able to get back into it. They are in the market, though, it's clear, Borussia Dortmund, to bring in a forward. They've sold Daniel Marlon to Aston Villa in the last week for in excess of £20 million. AC Milan are keeping an eye on that situation as well. And as I mentioned before, the non-EU player issue means that they're probably going to go for Kyle Walker ahead of Marcus Rashford. Having said all of that, all options still remain on the table. And the one I've said from the start of this transfer window, even though Rashford has said he wants a new challenge, is come February the 3rd at midnight, Marcus Rashford, there's still a possibility that he will remain a Manchester United player. Now, if that's the case, what Manchester United needs from Marcus Rashford for the remainder of this season is for him to be playing football, be it abroad, in a European club, or for Manchester United. So there will have to be some sort of reintegration into the first team squad for the remainder of this season, so that come the summer, Marcus Rashford will hopefully, if he's at United, will have played for United, will have scored goals for United, would have played regularly for Man United. So one of two things can happen. His market value will go up come the summer, or indeed he will still be part of Ruben Amorim's plans moving forward. But as it stands, every option is still available.
I read a report a few hours ago, a report from Germany, that Erik ten Hag could be appointed Borussia Dortmund head coach if they lost their Champions League tie of Bologna tomorrow night.
Would that increase the idea of Rashford going there or decrease the chances?
It's a good question. It depends which one came first as well. Can you imagine if they tried to do a deal with Marcus Rashford and then they appointed Erik ten Hag? I think if there was to be a situation where ten Hag was to come in, then they might just wait and see what they want to do with Marcus Rashford. But forgetting about ten Hag at the moment, this deal is very difficult to do because of the finances. Let's get that straight.
Curiouser and curiouser. Michael, Alejandro Garnacho, what's going on with him?
Yeah, probably Rashford and Garnacho, the two names we hear throughout January. Now, the Napoli sporting director, Giovanni Manna, has confirmed their interest in Garnacho, and he's described him as an important player. And he said if they were to join, it would be on Napoli's terms. That's quite bolshy, considering our understanding is that Manchester United do not want to sell Garnacho, and it would take a huge offer for Manchester United to consider a sale. But as you said, throughout January, with everything going on, PSR and wanting to change maybe the whole squad, I suppose every player has a price.
It's not just United. This has just been directed at Man United. There'll be loads of star players at every single Premier League club not for sale. We are not selling this player. Suddenly a £200 million bid comes in. What are you going to do? You're going to have to think about it. Every player at the end of the day has got his price.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk Anthony Darmesh. Is he on his way out?
This looks close now because Real Betis are close to agreeing a deal to sign Anthony from Manchester United. The deal under discussion is a straight loan. And we've been speaking about, Rashford perhaps being a straight loan. We saw Sancho go on a straight loan. I think they just want to enhance his market value. They're not going to get anywhere near £86 million that they spent a couple of summers ago to Ajax. That's not going to happen. But all parties, I think, are hopeful now that a deal can be finalised sooner rather than later. One thing I would say, though, about Anthony, and makes me think, does he potentially still have a small chance of a longer-term future at Manchester United? That's because if you compare what's happening with Rashford and Anthony, it's quite different, because Anthony has featured in every single one of Ruben Amorim's squads since he took over, bar the home defeat to Nottingham Forest. And he's played a few minutes here and there. So I'm wondering whether it's one, Ruben Amorim has seen something, or whether it's just a case of trying to get him to play well for United so that they can get a better deal when they do a loan move during this window. But it's clear that if he was to go away on a straight loan, perform well, one of two things, rather, like I said about Rashford, can happen in the summer. He might get reintegrated with the United squad under Ruben Amorim. Does he see Anthony as perhaps a player who, yes, it hasn't worked out for him so far, but can it work out for him in a Ruben Amorim formation? Let's see, because he's continued to pick him in his squads. Or is it just a case of, let's just try and get as much money as we can for him? We know we're not going to make anywhere near 86 million, but if we were to sell him now, it'll probably be a minimal fee. So let's try and get him regular first team football, get him playing well, get him playing regularly, and at least enhance his market value and reassess in the summer.
Now, Dams, I asked you a question when we started this, and
sorry about that.
And you confused me with the Rashford stuff. So I'm going to ask you again. Anyone coming in at United?
I think they do want to do a bit of business in this window, but we heard from Jamie Carragher there. It's very, very difficult to, one, get players in through the door in January, but also to get specific players that are going to fit what Ruben Amorim wants to do at Manchester United. Because every signing that he makes now, number one, has to hit the bullseye. They can't afford any mistakes now, Manchester United, given the amount of money that they've spent. But also, it's going to be easier to do it in the summer. However, they are in talks with Lecce to sign their left-back, Patrick Dorgu. Now, we understand that Dorgu is open to that move to Manchester United, but he is one of a number of options that United are looking at in what is becoming a really problematic position for them. Tyrell Malacia has been injured for the best part of 18 months. Luke Shaw simply cannot get fit. I think he played under Amorim and then he was out again for a long period of time and he's still not back. Sky Italy, we've spoken to them. They've got the Lecce side of the story, and as much as they wouldn't want to sell, if they do any business in this January transfer window, we think that they'd want at least 25 to 30 million pounds for Dorgu. So again, are Manchester United going to be able to afford that? The other players who I mentioned that they are looking at, we've been mentioning them throughout this transfer window. Nuno Mendes from PSG, only got 18 months left on his contract. So far, talks over a new contract, failed to find a resolution. United just keeping an eye on that situation. Significantly, Mendes has played under Ruben Amorim when he was at Sporting Lisbon. Yeah. So there is that link there. But it seems that Dorgu, who's a Denmark international, will probably represent more of a viable financial deal compared to someone like Mendes.
And he's a wing-back, right? So he would fit into the Amorim system.
It would seem that way, yes.
Okay.
Right. Lots of outgoings then. What about any potential incomers for poor Ruben Amorim?
Well, I think the one area of his squad he really wants to strengthen, I mean, there's quite a lot of areas, but I think his priority at the moment is left back, left wing back. Luke Shaw has been out the whole season. Tyrone Malacia has been injured. He's come back. They're going to let him potentially go out on loan. And one of their top targets is the Lecce left wing back, Patrick Dorgu. Now, he's a young, exciting player. He's only 20 years old. I think he was a Danish player of the year. I think if United come in for you, then you're going to want to make that move. So that is a potential incoming at Manchester United. But I think they're going to need to have players leaving before they can bring anyone in.
Where does this all leave Marcus Rashford? Because there were talks about him going to AC Milan. That's cooled a bit, hasn't it?
I think some people may be getting a little bit frustrated about how much we're talking about Marcus Rashford because they'll be watching, reading, saying, why do they keep talking about Marcus Rashford? Because nothing's changed. Well, what are the actual developments? Well, I don't think anything has changed publicly, but behind the scenes, obviously his representatives are having talks with lots of interested clubs. Everybody knows that he's on big wages at Manchester United. For United to let him go on loan, they would want all his wages paid. But I think interested clubs know that the closer you get to the deadline, the more likely it is that United will be willing to subsidise his wages. So interested clubs would potentially get a much better deal in 2 weeks' time, closer to the window closing, closer maybe even on deadline day. I think when it comes to AC Milan, I don't think they are going to progress their move for him, according to Sky in Italy. We've been talking about the fact they can only sign one player from the UK. And if they get Kyle Walker, that would mean that they wouldn't be able to get Marcus Rashford. And I'm not sure they could afford his wages at the moment.
Yeah, Zlatan waded in at the weekend, didn't he? Sort of talking about Kyle Walker as well and saying how that was a positive thing to
I think he was asked a question about Kyle Walker and he gave a sort of answer. And then that answer was put to Pep Guardiola, who didn't really want to talk about it very much. He just said, if Ibrahimovic said that, then that's what he said, I think. Which
is great. Actually, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But what about the other players from Manchester United? Because it's not just Rashford, actually, is it? Alejandro Garnacho and Antony could be on their way as well.
I mean,
Garnacho and Antony.
I remember 2.5 years ago when United signed him. One of the most expensive signings in Premier League history. Cost, I think, an initial 81 million pounds. Arrived, so much publicity, so much hype, but you have to say he has been very disappointing. I think he's only scored 12 goals. He's become a bit part player. United obviously willing to listen to offers for him, but the only deal that's really materialised is joining Real Betis on loan until the end of the season. So I think United will be hoping he goes out to Real Betis, does really well there, and that means they may be able to sell him and get some of that 81 million pounds back in the summer. Garnacho is a bit more of a strange one, because I think you would think that most United fans would be like, look, this is the kind of young player that we want to stay at the club. He's only 20 years old. He's come up through the youth ranks. But Napoli interested in signing him, Chelsea interested in signing him. I think Napoli value him around 40 million euros. That's not going to be enough. I think if United are to let him go, it would need to be for something closer to 60 million pounds. United also, we're being told, are willing to listen to loan offers for Tyrell Malacia, the left back who's had a lot of injury problems.
Yeah, gosh.